How trustable are GTA protagonists? Let's start with Michael for obvious reasons. Well, Michael literally built his cushy lifestyle on betrayal. He sold out his best friend Trevor and his other crew members in North Yankton, faking his own death to escape into witness protection. That's not exactly the kind of thing that screams, "Trust me with your life." What makes this even more interesting is how he shows absolutely no remorse for this decision until he's forced to confront it. He justified it as protecting his family, but let's be real. He was mainly protecting himself. Throughout GTA 5's story, Michael's pattern of deception doesn't really improve. He lies to his family constantly, pretending to be in therapy while actually planning heists. He manipulates Franklin, seeing him as a younger version of himself that he can mold and control. Even when he tries to go straight with his movie producer dreams, he can't help but resort to violence and intimidation to get his way. When you compare Michael to other GTA protagonists, his level of untrustworthiness really stands out. Sure, characters like Nico or Carl Johnson did some questionable things, but they generally stayed loyal to their allies and had clear moral codes they stuck to. Michael, on the other hand, seems to view loyalty as a convenient tool rather than a virtue. He'll work with you as long as it benefits him, but the moment a better deal comes along, you might want to watch your back. This thing with Michael's character is how self-aware he is about his own untrustworthiness. He knows he's a terrible husband and father. He acknowledges that he's a thief and a killer. Yet, despite this awareness, he continues to act primarily in his own self-interest, often at the expense of others. This makes him one of the most realistic but least reliable protagonists in the entire franchise. That said, there's something almost admirable about how consistently untrustworthy Michael is. Unlike other characters who might pretend to be honorable, Michael's basically telling you up front, "This is who I am. Take it or leave it." In a weird way, his obvious untrustworthiness becomes its own form of honesty. You can trust that Michael will always look out for Michael. And that's about it.
Next, Trevor. Now here's what makes Trevor interesting. Unlike Michael, he actually has a strong code about loyalty. When he discovers Michael's betrayal, his rage isn't just about being deceived. It's about the violation of what he considered a sacred bond between friends. Trevor believes in being upfront about who and what he is. He doesn't hide his criminal nature or try to pretend he's something he's not. In that sense, he's more honest than Michael could ever be. But here's the catch. Trevor's trustworthiness comes with a massive asterisk. While he might be loyal in his own way, his severe mental instability makes him incredibly dangerous to everyone around him. One minute he could be sharing a beer with you, and the next he might be setting your house on fire because you looked at him wrong. His violent mood swings and methamphetamine addiction make him about as reliable as a time bomb with a faulty timer. Take his relationship with Ron and Wade, for example. Sure, he hasn't betrayed them like Michael did his crew, but he's essentially terrorized them into loyalty. They're not friends or partners. They're hostages to his volatile personality. He might defend them against outsiders, but he's also the biggest threat to their well-being on a daily basis. Even when Trevor tries to run legitimate businesses like TPI, Trevor Philips Industries, his unpredictable nature and tendency toward extreme violence make him an unreliable business partner. He might honor a deal today, but tomorrow he might decide to burn everything down because someone made a comment about his accent or his fashion choices. The really unsettling thing about Trevor is that you can trust him to be untrustworthy in a completely different way from Michael. With Michael, you know he might betray you if it serves his interests. With Trevor, the betrayal might come simply because he had a bad day or someone triggered one of his numerous psychological issues. There's no calculating the risk because Trevor himself doesn't operate on logic or self-interest. He operates on pure, unfiltered impulse. When he gives his word, he genuinely means to keep it, assuming his mental state allows it. He has moments of surprising loyalty, like his genuine care for Patricia Madrazo or his initial friendship with Michael. The problem is, these moments of loyalty are always one trigger away from turning into a bloodbath. So while Trevor might rank slightly higher than Michael on the trustworthiness scale, it's like comparing different types of explosives. They're both dangerous, just in different ways. Michael will betray you with calculation and purpose, while Trevor might destroy everything you hold dear simply because he woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And Franklin, he's definitely high. First off, Franklin's loyalty is consistently proven throughout the story. Despite Lamar repeatedly getting himself into dangerous situations with the Ballas, Franklin always shows up to help his childhood friend. Even when others tell him to cut Lamar loose, Franklin sticks by him. That's not just loyalty. That's loyalty despite it being inconvenient and potentially dangerous to himself. His relationships with both Michael and Trevor. When these two volatile personalities are at each other's throats, Franklin's often the voice of reason, trying to keep everything from falling apart. He's the one who consistently tries to mediate their conflicts, even though he could easily just walk away from their drama. Remember how he saves Michael from the triads? Or how he's willing to work with Trevor even after seeing his violent tendencies? That's real dedication. Speaking of Michael, Franklin's relationship with him is particularly interesting. While Michael does take on a mentor role, Franklin doesn't blindly follow him. He questions Michael's decisions when needed, and maintains his own moral compass. Unlike Michael's tendency to betray, or Trevor's unpredictability, Franklin stays remarkably consistent in his dealings with others. Then there's his professional reliability. Throughout the game, Franklin proves himself to be the most level-headed during heists and missions. No sudden betrayals, no psychotic episodes, just solid, dependable performance. Whether it's a simple car theft or a complex heist, you know Franklin's going to handle his part of the job without adding unnecessary drama or complications. He knows he's involved in criminal activities, but he's always looking to improve himself and his situation. Unlike Michael, who's stuck in his past glory days, or Trevor, who's content with chaos, Franklin actively works towards becoming better at what he does while maintaining his principles. And if players choose the third option, Death Wish, it's Franklin who puts in the work to save everyone. He could have taken the easy way out and killed either Michael or Trevor as suggested, but instead, he finds a way to keep the crew together and deal with their mutual enemies. That's not just loyalty, that's problem-solving with integrity. Nico. First off, let's talk about Nico's strongest attribute, his unwavering loyalty to family. When it comes to Roman, Nico is absolutely ride or die. Despite all of Roman's lies about the American dream that brought Nico to Liberty City, despite his gambling problems and the constant trouble he brings, Nico never abandons his cousin. He'll take on the entire Russian mob just to protect Roman. This extends to other people he considers family, like Kate McReary. When Nico lets someone into his inner circle, his loyalty becomes absolutely unshakable. But if you're not family, Nico's trustworthiness becomes much more flexible. Throughout GTA 4's story, we see him regularly switch allegiances when better opportunities present themselves. He'll work for the McReary brothers, then the Pegorinos, then Dimitri, then against Dimitri, all based on what serves his interests at the moment. Nico is surprisingly pragmatic for someone who talks so much about loyalty and honor. Having been betrayed during the war in his homeland, he carries a deep skepticism about human nature. This manifests in how easily he can flip on his employers or associates if he feels they might betray him first. It's almost like a preemptive strike mentality. Betray them before they betray you. The missions with Playboy X and Dwayne perfectly illustrate this fluidity. Nico works for both men, builds relationships with them, but ultimately can choose to eliminate either one based on his judgment of the situation. He's not bound by previous loyalties if he decides someone is no longer worthy of his trust. But there's an important distinction to make. Nico isn't untrustworthy in the same way as someone like Michael deSanta. He doesn't typically betray people for pure profit or self-interest. Instead, his shifts in loyalty usually come from a place of moral judgment or self-preservation. If he feels someone has crossed an ethical line or might pose a threat to him or his family, that's when his loyalty evaporates. Unlike many GTA protagonists, he isn't primarily motivated by getting rich. He's more concerned with survival and protecting his loved ones. This makes his trustworthiness somewhat more predictable. If working with you aligns with these goals, he'll remain loyal. If it doesn't, well, you might want to watch your back. So, where does this leave us? Nico Bellic lands squarely in the medium category of trustworthiness. If you're family or have genuinely earned his respect, he's as reliable as they come. But if you're just a business associate or temporary ally, you should always be prepared for the possibility that Nico might find a better option. CJ. From the very beginning of San Andreas, CJ demonstrates his reliability by returning home for his mother's funeral, despite leaving Los Santos years ago. When he sees his family in Grove Street in shambles, he doesn't run away from the responsibility. He steps up. This sets the tone for his entire character arc. Even when Big Smoke and Ryder betray the gang, CJ remains steadfast in his loyalty to his brother Sweet and the Grove Street families. See whether he's working with Cesar Villalpando, Truth, Woozy, or even government agent Mike Terreno, CJ consistently holds up his end of the deal. Even when dealing with shady characters like Terreno, who basically blackmails him with his brother's freedom, CJ follows through on his commitments. He might not like it, but if he gives his word, he keeps it. The relationship with Sweet really showcases CJ's loyalty. When Sweet goes to prison, CJ doesn't abandon him. Instead, he builds an entire criminal empire across San Andreas, working with various gangs and organizations, all while keeping his main goal in sight, getting his brother out and restoring Grove Street. That's dedication on another level.
Unlike characters like Michael or Nico, CJ doesn't typically switch sides for better deals or abandon allies for personal gain. When he discovers Big Smoke and Ryder's betrayal, his response isn't to join the winning team. It's to work even harder to make things right. His loyalty to Grove Street and his family never wavers, even when staying loyal means taking the harder path. He works with triads in San Fierro, becomes a casino partner in Las Venturas, and even deals with government agencies, yet never loses sight of his core loyalties. He manages to be both ambitious and reliable, a rare combination in the GTA universe. His relationship with Cesar Villalpando is another great example of his trustworthy nature. Despite initial tensions due to Cesar dating his sister Kendall, CJ gives him a chance and ends up forming one of the strongest partnerships in the game. When Cesar proves himself by revealing the betrayal of Big Smoke and Ryder, CJ fully embraces him as family, showing that his loyalty extends to those who earn his trust. Finally, Tommy. Let's get one thing straight. Tommy is a businessman first and foremost. Unlike CJ's family loyalty or Franklin's reliable friendship, Tommy views most relationships through the lens of usefulness. Take his relationship with Ken Rosenberg, for example. While Ken starts as his lawyer and becomes something of a friend, Tommy keeps him around primarily because he's useful for business. The moment Ken's drug problem starts affecting business, Tommy's patience wears thin. Throughout Vice City's story, we watch him systematically take over the entire city, betraying former allies when convenient. Remember Lance Vance? Tommy works with him throughout the game, but their relationship is always transactional. When Lance betrays Tommy because he feels undervalued, it's almost poetic. It's exactly what Tommy would do if the roles were reversed. Here's where Tommy differs from someone like Michael deSanta. He's surprisingly straightforward about his nature. He doesn't pretend to be your friend or act like he cares about loyalty. If you're useful and competent, he'll treat you well. If you're not, well, let's just say the Harwood Butcher didn't get his nickname from being overly forgiving. His relationship with Sonny Forelli perfectly illustrates this. Despite Sonny being his former boss and the one who set him up in Vice City, Tommy has no qualms about turning against him when the opportunity arises. To Tommy, the fact that Sonny kept him in prison for 15 years means their relationship is strictly business, and in business, there's always room for hostile takeovers. That said, Tommy does show moments of genuine loyalty to those who prove consistently valuable. His relationship with Colonel Cortez, while initially business-focused, develops into something resembling respect. Even his treatment of the porn studio crew shows that if you're good at what you do and stay useful, Tommy can be a reliable partner. Just don't expect him to stick around if things go south. Tommy's type of untrustworthiness is how predictable it actually is. Unlike Trevor's random chaos or Michael's calculated betrayals, Tommy operates on a simple principle. If working with you benefits his empire, he's reliable. The moment that changes, all bets are off. In a weird way, you can trust Tommy to be consistently self-interested. Tommy Vercetti lands firmly in the low trust category, but with an asterisk. He's not untrustworthy because he's dishonest or unstable. He's untrustworthy because he's honest about seeing people as tools for his ambition. If you're a useful tool, you'll do just fine. If not, well, there's always room in the ocean for another body. And we are done. Who do you think is the most and least trustworthy protagonist? Let me know in the comments, and hey, don't forget to subscribe. That being said, thanks for watching the video.